my name is Mackenzie Vaughn, and this is my content strategy presentation. My content area is music education, and my strategy that I will be talking about today is skimming and scanning. To learn the correct way to skim and scan, I will be using examples from the Music Theory Handbook by Marjorie Merriman, which is this book right here. And I have placed a sample reading selection for after the presentation to demonstrate skimming and scanning on your desks, which looks like this. And we'll be looking at the function tones and tendency tones section. And I have also handed out a handout for notes so that you can write about the presentation tonight. And it's 3 pages. It's this one right here. And there's a little activity on the back that we'll get to at the very end. So let's jump right in. Skimming and scanning is a very important skill to learn and refine throughout one's lifetime as a student. If used incorrectly, however, there could be major setbacks. So that's one reason why I chose this as my strategy, because I think a student entering high school and college definitely need to know how to skim and scan properly. In order to fully understand what skimming and scanning are, we need to look into the actual definition of them both. So skimming and scanning uses a quick survey of the text to get the main idea, identify text structure, confirm or question predictions. Now, this is a definition for both skimming and scanning put together, but I will ask, are skimming and scanning the same things? And many think they are, and that's where they get into trouble, because they aren't the same things. Skimming and scanning aren't different things, so we use skimming to preview or what you've read, what you're going to read before you actually start reading the book. So just flip through some of the pages, see what the chapters are about. We'll use it to review, so reading after we read. So if we have a big project coming up or a paper to write, we will go back through after we've read the book to its entirety and find the most important passages so that we can use it in these projects. We'll also use it to determine the main idea from a long selection that one might not really wish to read. I know that's what I use it for a lot of the time when I'm working on a research project. It really helps me to find the main ideas first and then go back and read it a little more thoroughly later. And the last point to skimming is when one is trying to find source material for a research paper. I also use this a lot as a student, so it really helps to skim through a reading selection in a textbook to look for the main points. Now, when scanning in research, we use it to find particular facts, to study fact-heavy topics. So if there are a lot of facts in a certain lesson that we're teaching our students, we might tell them that scanning is a very good idea and should be used, and to answer questions requiring factual support. Now, many people use skimming and scanning to simply cut down time on a reading assignment. And yeah, that is a benefit of skimming and scanning correctly, but there are some other benefits. And as I said above, skimming and scanning is not just used to cut down on reading time or to hurry through a reading assignment. That's incorrect. Skimming and scanning is actually a very foolproof procedure. The benefits do include cutting down reading time, but they also include better memorization of important facts within the reading. That's actually a really good thing if you're going to have a vocabulary test and you expect the students to find their own definitions for things using the textbooks that you've given them. And a lot of the time they'll go online and find a completely different definition that you don't even think is Correct. And you go by the textbook, so you want them to look things up in the textbook that you know is right. But if there's a lot of reading that comes with finding those definitions, it's a good idea to skim and scan. Another benefit is being able to read more important facts in one reading. So in one sit-down time, they can learn more things. Skimming and scanning also strengthens vision accuracy, memorization, and competence of a certain subject as well. So towards the beginning of the presentation, I stated that there are guidelines to skimming and scanning because if done incorrectly, there can be repercussions, unfortunately. So, guidelines to skimming. To skim, we prepare to move rapidly through the pages. Reading every word is not necessary, keep in mind, and we need to pay special attention to typographical cues, headings, boldface and italic type, indenting, bulleted and numbered lists. Be alert for keywords and phrases, the names of the people and places, dates, nouns, and unfamiliar words. In general, we need to follow these steps. Number 1, read the table of contents or chapter overview to learn the main divisions of ideas. Number 2, glance through the main headings in each chapter just to see a word or two. Read the headings of charts and tables. That's very important. We need to read the entire introductory paragraph and then the first and last sentence only of each following paragraph. For each paragraph, read only the first few words of each sentence to locate the main idea. Number 4, stop and quickly read the sentences containing key words indicating in boldface or italics. When you think you have found something significant, stop to read the entire sentence to make sure that it is significant. Then, go on the same way. Resist the temptation to stop to read details that you don't need. There are a lot of filler sentences that you can come across when you're doing reading, especially in a textbook or in a even a chapter book, really, if you're looking into finding good examples of the characters or really anything like that. And number 6, which is the last one for skimming, read chapter summaries when provided. That is very important. If you cannot complete all of the steps above, you need to compromise. So read only the chapter overviews and summaries, for example, or the summaries and all of the bold-faced words, which is something that I actually do quite often. While skimming is always faster than your normal reading speed, you should slow down in the following situations. Number 1, when you skim introductory and concluding paragraphs, when you skim topic sentences, when you find an unfamiliar word, and when material is very complicated. If there's something that one does not know at all, just read the entire thing so that you can get an idea about what it's really saying and what you need to learn about it. So now we move on to guidelines in scanning. Scanning uses keywords and organizational cues as well. But while the goal of skimming is a bird's eye view of the material, the goal of scanning is to locate and swoop down on particular facts. Scanning too uses keywords and organizational cues. But while the goal of skimming is a bird's eye view of the material, the goal of scanning is to locate and swoop down on particular facts. If, after skimming, it is decided that material will be useful, go ahead and scan. Number 1, know what to look for. Decide on a few keywords or phrases as search items. Look for only one keyword at a time. If more than one keyword is used, it is considered a multiple scan, which you don't want. You want to have one scan per one fact. So really swoop in or get a good view on what exactly it is that you want to use from when you skim. Number 3, let the eyes float rapidly down the page until a word or phrase is found that is desired. When the eye catches one of these key words, read the surrounding material carefully. Okay, so now that we have discussed what skimming and scanning are as a whole, the differences between the two, the benefits of each, and the guidelines, let's try to skim and scan together. So we're going to look at the music theory handbook handouts that I gave everybody at the beginning of this little seminar / presentation, which is this, page 10 from the Merriman Handbook. And we are going to practice the skimming and scanning technique. So what I want to do, I want to take 5 minutes and we're going to skim through the functions and tendency tones. Now, on the very last page of the handouts that I gave everybody for taking notes, we have this, and there's a lot of free room, and it states, list a short summary of page 10, section on functions and tendency tones. Use the skimming and scanning technique. So instead of reading the entire passage about functions and tendency tones, which isn't really long in general, but this is for an example, go ahead and underline or find any key things that tell you anything about functions and tendency tones that will help you learn. So, let's see. Now that we've gone through everything, I found a few things in here that tell me about what this passage is going to be about. We're going to be talking or learning about scale structure. In music, you have many different types of scales. You have Lydian, minor, harmonic minor, major, diminished, what are some other ones? Bebop scales. In jazz, you have all different ones. And scales are all made up of different steps within your music. You can have a half step, whole step, quarter step. Within Middle Eastern music, that's a thing, a quarter step. They have instruments such as the sitar that can do quarter steps, which is really cool in my opinion. But sticking with Western music, which is what this book covers, a function or tendency tone, when looking at it, talks about the context of major and minor keys. I underlined the first sentence, which says, some scale steps have particular functions or tendencies, which is true, and that uses both of the terms that this section is about, functions and tendency tones. So then I found a few filler sentences that really talked about more of what the function and tendency tones are, or that really weren't that important. So then I skipped down to the italic sentences that said, the most stable element in the scale is the tonic. So the tonic is your first note that you will always start with in a scale. And it then went on to say, if the scale ends on the tonic note rather than on some other scale degree, it'll sound better. So that's what I summed it up with. Then I went on to skim that the third scale step, and to a lesser extent the dominant, also have the melodic stability. And after that sentence, I saw this sentence in italics that said, the least stable scale step is the leading tone. So we've now figured out what our most stable scale degree is and what our least stable scale degree is. So as I continue to go down the page on this, there is a definition for a tendency tone. It states, this is a tendency tone, which is the least stable step in a scale. And then as I continue